It was while being chased on the streets by bullies that Bastian found a very creepy old bookstore, where he finds a mysterious book called The Neverending Story, where he discovers the magical world of Fantasia, a strange and often scary fairy tale world of many strange creatures and characters. However, the world is being destroyed by a mysterious force known as the Nothing, which is an abstract representation of how modern kids are turning their backs on reading books. It is believed that the Nothing will no longer be a threat once the childlike Empress is no longer ill, so a mighty child warrior known as Atreyu is sent on a quest to find a cure, where along the way he comes across many dangers and tragedies. Yeah, I'm looking at you, ARTAX'S. Seriously, why did ARTAX'S have to die? One like equals one prayer. Released in 1984, The Neverending Story has gone on to become a treasured classic of many people's childhoods, and is still just as celebrated today as it was 34 years ago. Okay, so today, while I try to get over my grief over what happened to ARTAX'S, we are going to explore 10 things that you probably didn't know about The Neverending Story, but maybe you might have known. I don't know. So let's check it out and avoid the swamps of sadness like it's the plague. Let's do this. Number 10. Based on a book. Yeah, I know, right? Who would have thought that The Neverending Story, a movie about a book, was based on a book? Well, sadly, I was one of those people, and I only found out recently that The Neverending Story's origin started on the printed page, because clearly I'm clever. Published in 1979, the German novel was written by author Michael Ende, and there are several differences between book and movie. Such as in the movie, Bastian's dad tries to reinforce Bastian to move on over the death of his mother, whereas in the book, the dad is still in a deep depression over the loss. Also in the book, Bastian is an overweight boy, suggesting that he is taken to comfort eating. Atreyu has blue hair and green skin, and Falkor the fluffy dragon in the movie looks more like an actual dragon in the book. And Atreyu meets Falkor in the book when Falkor saves the young boy from being eaten by a giant spider when he falls into a spider's web. Also in the book, Fantasia isn't called Fantasia but Fantastica. There is honestly tons of differences between book and movie, and if you love the movie and are interested in a different perspective of The Neverending Story, then I definitely say check out the book. Number 9. Filming location. So given the fact that The Neverending Story was a German book, it should come as no surprise that it was actually a German movie production too. It is popular belief that the movie was filmed in England, as many special effects fantasy-heavy movies were filmed in England during the 80s. But most of The Neverending Story was filmed in Munich. The movie was even distributed by German movie company West German Films and directed by German director Wolfgang Peterson, who had just previously worked on Das Boot and would go on to direct Enemy Mine, The Perfect Storm and Troy. As for the city location at the start, well, that part of the movie was filmed on the streets of Vancouver, Canada. The irony being that The Neverending Story isn't the only classic children's movie to be filmed in Munich, as 13 years earlier, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was also filmed in the West Germany city. Number 8. Many famous pop culture characters live in Fantasia. The Neverending Story features many memorable rich characters, such as Rockbiter, Falkor the Luck Dragon, the Gnome Scientist, the Funny Bat Guy, and the Snail Man, who by the way is played by the legendary Deep Roy. Along with, of course, Atreyu and the Childlike Empress, to name but just a few of the residents of Fantasia. However, did you know that some other fictional characters from some of your other favourite books, movies and TV shows also live in Fantasia? For example, the scene in the Ivory Tower, where some of Fantasia's most noblest meet to discuss the nothing, which is full of Easter eggs, where if you look closely you can see E.T., Gumby, Mickey Mouse, Ewoks, C-3PO, Chewbacca, and Yoda. Wow, suddenly the world of the Neverending Story has just been greatly expanded. I like to think that Fantasia is like the land of fiction, where all fictional characters reside in some kind of fictional collective consciousness. By the way, I'm just going to say this once, but Atreyu totally should have gone off with Chewie. At least Chewbacca wouldn't have gotten all depressed and sunk in the swamps of sadness. Number 7. The story behind ARTAX'S drowning. Oh yeah, you knew it was coming. Sooner or later it was going to be addressed. The absolutely traumatizing scene where Atreyu's horse ARTAX drowns in the swamps of sadness. An all-consuming evil swamp that will swallow you up if you have any sadness in your heart. And of course the sadness consumes ARTAX the horse. I guess he was too busy thinking about all those horse bills he has to pay and getting his horse kids into horse college, I don't know. This scene is so devastating, I wouldn't be surprised if it left many little ones who saw it back in the day seeking child therapy. However, there is an interesting story behind this scene, as it took trainers 7 weeks to train the horses to keep still while the mud rises, on the account that it's the horse's natural instinct to jump out. So after 7 long weeks, the stunt horses had to be slowly trained to keep still on the hydraulic platform while they got up to their neck in it with mud, and thus creating one of the most tear-inducing moments in kids' movies. Here's what I don't get. The scene ends with Atreyu crying in despair and being sad over the death of ARTAX. So, shouldn't he technically have sunk into the swamp too? Well, I guess the actor had already been put through enough, what with nearly losing an eye. Which brings me to my next point. Number 6. On-set accident. In the Neverending Story, there is a scene where Atreyu comes across the terrifying wolf beast known as Gmork, in which, after a confrontation, a fight takes place of boy warrior versus beast monster. But it was while filming this scene that the young actor who played Atreyu, Noah Hathaway, nearly lost an eye on the account that the wolf claw prop struck him right in the face, right next to his eye, injuring him. And when the wolf puppet was actually placed on top of Hathaway, the kid couldn't even breathe and nearly suffocated because of just how heavy it was. Man, what is it with child actors from the 80s and seriously getting injured and nearly dying? This reminds me of the actor Oliver Robbins, who nearly got strangled to death by the clown doll prop from Poltergeist. Incidentally, the special effects director Brian Johnson would go on to call Hathaway a pain in the ass in an interview. Yeah, on your watch, this kid nearly lost an eye. I think if it was me, I would be a bit of a pain in the ass too. I think we can cut him some slack. Number 5. Spielberg helped with the US version. When it came time to edit the movie together for a US release, legendary director Steven Spielberg lent a helping hand and helped Neverending Story director Wolfgang Peterson edit the movie for its American release. After all, Spielberg would know more than anyone what would and wouldn't work for US viewers. Director Peterson contacted Spielberg himself after having Spielberg recommended to him by George Lucas to help him re-edit the movie. The Neverending Story basically needed to be faster paced and to have, quote, snippets removed from it here and there, and to get the ball rolling quicker to keep the US audience interested and invested in the movie. Peterson said that no scenes were removed, but just had tighter scene trims. In fact, Peterson was so thankful of Steven Spielberg's contributions, as a way of saying thank you, he gave Spielberg the aura prop from the movie, which apparently is still on display in Spielberg's office. Number 4. The childlike Empress's teeth issues. So in the movie's climax, we see both Atreyu and Bastian meet the childlike Empress, the mysterious guiding light that shines over Fantasia. The part was played by an 11-year-old Iranian dancer, Tammy Stornich. But given the fact that she was very young, just before filming took place, Tammy lost her 2 front teeth. So rather than having a toothless childlike empress, it was decided to fit the young actress with fake teeth to fill in the gaps. Unfortunately, this caused more problems, as it caused Tammy to now talk with a lisp. So not to be beaten by teeth and lisps, Tammy had to train to be able to talk while wearing the fake teeth without any lisps, while also sounding noble and beyond her years with wisdom. And to be fair, she pulls it off quite well. I never knew while watching it she had fake teeth and was fighting back a speech impediment. Number 3. The 3 child actors all went on to have interesting careers. Even though the child actors in the Neverending Story never went on to becoming big-time actors, having a huge break thanks to the Neverending Story, that doesn't mean that they haven't gone to have successful careers. Seemingly free of all that usual out-of-control spiral that sadly tends to happen to child actors. Noah Hathaway, who played Atreyu, went on to become a martial arts instructor and a tattooist based in LA. Childlike Empress actor, Tammy Stornich, has become a successful New York-based dance choreographer. And Barrett Oliver, who played Bastian, is now a photographer, author, and beard enthusiast. One book he wrote in particular was about 19th century film processing. If he ever writes an autobiography about his life, I hope he calls it From Bastian to the Beard, My Life in Words. Or something like that. Number 2, the film is only made up of the first half of the book. Despite the fact that the Neverending Story feels like a complete and fulfilling journey and ends exactly in the right place, what with Fantasia being saved and Sebastian finding newfound happiness, this was only the first half of the book. You see, it was always intended for the Neverending Story to have a movie sequel, which would be solely focused on the second part of the novel, which actually did happen with the Neverending Story 2, The Next Chapter, which didn't come out until 6 years later, which meant the 3 main child actors had to be recast, which is never a good thing. It just didn't have the magic or feel of the first movie, and frankly, a sequel had been left too long. Apparently it was intended to make a sequel straight away after the first movie was released, but had to be postponed due to legal issues, which kind of killed off any chances of a sequel being good in my opinion. Then finally in 1995 there was a third movie, which was an original story, and, well, it wasn't very good, and really bastardizes the characters, aka the rock biter singing Born to be Wild, along with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Kmart references. But still, it had Jack Black in it, so that's interesting. There was also a Neverending Story animated series which also aired in 1995, which featured Atreyu in his intended form, with green skin and blue hair. And there was also a live action show called Tales from the Neverending Story, which was a Canadian show that ran on HBO from 2000 to 2002. I never saw either the animated series or the live action show, as they weren't really well known here in Australia, so I can't really comment on them. Number 1, the author hated the movie. It almost comes with a heavy heart to say that the author of the Neverending Story book, Michael Ende, really doesn't like the movie adaptation of his story, despite the fact it's become such a treasured classic to all those who grew up watching it, and despite the fact that Ende himself even helped on the script. But not only does he not like the movie, but he even called it, quote, revolting, and even demanded his name to be removed from the credits. Wow, that's a lot of hate. I mean, it's not like it's a badly made movie. Even to this day, the world of Fantasia looks like a real strange world, with believable and lovable characters. So where did it go wrong? What caused Ende to be so outraged by the movie? Well, his disapproval may lie in the scene with the giant female Sphinx statues, which appear to be topless. He felt that the topless Sphinxes were embarrassing, and basically referred to them as strippers. I guess he felt that they should have been more modestly dressed Sphinxes. Either way, I just think it's a shame that End hasn't been able to love and embrace his creation like the rest of the world has. Anyway, peoples, that was my look into the Neverending story. I hope you all enjoyed it, naked Sphinx statues and all. It is still a very powerful and moving and adventurous movie, and will forever continue to be. Anyway, I'm Minty, and for the record, the Neverending story isn't never ending. The movie only clocks in at 94 minutes. See ya!